Like, I would definitely see a video like this with 1 million views on it. What are these guys doing? Dropping coronavirus all over us?
Is that military?
Yeah. Look.
Dude, that's too military. Whoa.
My table saw, I'm terrified because it's the most dangerous tool in the shop, and that's hands down the truth. So just having that safety feature, it would give me peace of mind every time somebody goes to use it, that they're not going to cut their off.
Is this the sled completely necessary? Is there, if like someone didn't want to build it, will it just make it harder for them to do what they got to do with it?
You could probably get by without the sled. If anybody gets by without the sled, let me see what you did. I'm very curious. It's at least 1,500 TIMs on the jankiest scale.
Walnut has a jankiest scale of 1,010.
What the? Okay, so right now we're gonna focus on this sled for cutting the angled dado in the rear legs. It's probably the hardest part of the build. Maybe not the hardest, but it's a hard part of the build. I've already made this jig, but I wanna make it again to show you guys how I do it. So we're just getting started. I'm gonna cut some MDF right now, and then we'll mill some hardwood, and then I'll start assembling it. All right, so now we have the bases done. The base is cut for our sled. One of them is 25 inches by 21. The other one's 25 inches by 16. So now we're gonna mill up some hardwood. And we're gonna turn these into a double action sliding compound double quadruplication jig. So we're gonna touch on this a little bit. I need to get a couple of strips out of here that are roughly 2 1/4 to 2 1/2, and you can see we have a check right here. When you go to table saw something that has a check in it, you're supposed to cut that out before you start table sawing. If you're like, well, I can get 2 1/4 here, so I'm just gonna cut it. What can happen, it doesn't always happen, but what can happen is when you start cutting into here, you're gonna get excessive movement around this because there's already a relief there. And what usually happens is you get a pinch in the blade. And when it pinches the blade on a table saw, it's scary as all hell. You can have kickback, it can slam the board, it can throw the board, it can pull your hand in. A lot of weird stuff can happen. So if you got balls of steel or a saw stop, then go for it, man. If you want to be safe, you probably want to cut that out before you start working with this, which unfortunately means we have a much shorter board to work with. Today hasn't been a great day so far, so I'm not going to push my luck. I'm going to just cut that out. Just cashing checks over here. I'm attaching the sliders that are riding in the track below, and I drew up a little grid here so I know exactly where my runners are at. There's one underneath it right here and one underneath it right here. So I'm going to use this here countersink bit, and I'm going to put 3 screws.
You never like that, put it in the trunk and never write back. Got my shit like, it's tighter than facts. Keep my shit like.
Oh, damn, son, you made this?
So what we're gonna have this sled, which is like a normal sled. It goes back and forth, but then what makes this sled different is we're gonna have another sled within the sled that slides this way. So you have an X and a Y axis that this sled moves upon. Right now we're just getting the X axis lined up. That's gonna move this way, and then we'll go from there with the next one. I want to make sure that I set these fences at a 90 degree from the blade, not from the fence, just in case there's any variation or deviation. There shouldn't be, but I'm going to be on the safe side anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sled in the middle of the table saw. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to raise the blade until I can see the blade come through here. And then I'm going to make sure that whatever line that is created by the blade, I 90 my fence to that.
Don't know a limit, chasing a dream. I don't know what sleepers. I got a queen, she lit me to eat it. She ripe like a peach and she snapped me to snip it. You well overdue for that link up in person. Text me to fall through its murder, she wrote it. Still live with courage, you're doing a service. Pull up to the crib, I'm equipped with the brush strokes. Cutthroat from the low, where no love goes. Women buddy like it's been there.
Thank you. All right, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this fence here square to the blade. So I went over to the miter saw and I just cut a little. I have this setting here and I made myself a little pencil mark, and then I went to the miter saw and I just cut a little thing on there, just a little notch, so that I can get this closer to the blade, like so. And then I'm going to use the square push it up against the blade and slide it onto the fence. And now I know I can square this up. I know that that's perfectly square right there. So that's what I'm looking for. So that's where I want to put this. It's not perfectly square to my substrate. So it's a really good thing that I didn't just assume that it was and put it there, because it would have been out of square. We can't have that. So this is where I need to be. If you look on this side, you can see right here, I'm pretty much flush. Dang. And over here, I'm overhanging.
Yeah. Oh, why?
Because this isn't cut perfectly square. I cut it on the track saw.
Oh, yeah.
So, but now I know that I'm 90, so that doesn't matter.
Right, exactly.
My fence is 90, my blade, I'm good. So it's important, an important step that I've actually never seen anybody on YouTube do. Damn, Daniel.
Damn, William, back at it again with the substrates.
Back at it again with the sleds. There's so many sled videos out there, dude. It's insane. I've never watched any of them. This just jumped right into it, man.
Buckle up, hit that like button, and let's just jump into it.
Oh, look at how proud he is of his sled.
Oh, isn't that special? And that's gonna sit like that. The bottom there. Good. Everything's looking good so far. So what I'm gonna do now is, I'm gonna be like that. Okay, so I'm gonna screw these in now, right here. And this is just a guide so that I'm parallel with the fence, right? That's all that this is serving, the only purpose this is serving. Yeah, I'm removing that. But before I screw these in, I just wanna make sure that I'm not gonna hit any screws. And then we'll see how far this is gonna go in. Make sure it doesn't come out the bottom. So now where we have arrived is a very, very nice fit. Like a magnum on my Jamie. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this here, and we need to attach this to this so that this slides back and forth. And this isn't some shit that I saw on a YouTube video, guys. This is me figuring it out for myself because I didn't know what the to do, and I didn't wanna, I don't know, I guess I didn't, not that I didn't want to, I didn't know who to ask. I just had to figure it out for myself. So hopefully this opens up your mind to possibilities and things like problem solving and whatever, man. Okay, so what we need to think about right now is this is gonna slide back and forth this way, 1 3/8. So we really need to know where the center point's at. And where the center point is at, like where the blade is coming up, we can't have any screws near that. We're gonna kind of mark that out. Make sure that we don't put any screws there, otherwise we will hit them with the blade. So I'm just gonna go 1 inch this way and 1 inch this way. So basically, this is the danger zone. I'm not gonna put any screws here. I'm just gonna put this in back here so I get an even reference for this. And then I'm just gonna screw this down to that center substrate. Dude, this is a 1 million view video right here. So this one is not important. That's why I'm not taking a bunch of time to square it up, because these are only here to keep this from splitting and separating when we cut through it. I am not gonna reference anything off of those. So that's why I'm not taking the time to square these up and line these ones up like I did the other one. But so now I'm gonna flip this over, screw this in. Okay, we're gonna go yeah.
There you go.
You can see we got a gap there. I didn't screw the screws all the way down because I was afraid they were going to pop out the back, and because of that, that's not pulled all the way down. So I'm going to make even smaller screws go in there so we can really snug those down. See, now we are sealed. Do you see that now that we don't have a gap there? Do you see that? So now we can put this guy in here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Oh yeah. Dude, so just so you know what we're doing. So now I need to line this up with the bottom of something like that, and then I need to measure up. This has to be perfect, and then I need to measure up and get a line right across where I need my seat to be, right? Yeah. And when I know where my seat needs to be, I have to line up my seat line with the line that my table saw is going to be cutting. And then once that's lined up, I have to create cleats to hold this, and then clamps to hold this down. That way I can have my blade turned over at an angle, and then push this through, pull it back, slide it over. I should probably sand that a little bit, just a touch. Slide that over, push it through, pull it back, slide it over, push it through, slide it back, slide it over. And what I'm doing is I'm removing that shape.
Right, and you're having to remove it at an angle as well?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
That's why see how it's angled?
Yeah.
So 12-degree angle, and I need a flat bottom.
Forever.
To do that by hand, you have to
Screwdriver?
have your hand saw
Oh my god.
at a 12-degree, and then just carefully do that, and then carefully do it again at the exact size, I guess. Yeah, you could do that. And then once you have those angles cut, then you can cut some straight angles and don't pass your depth, and then come in and remove it with a bunch of shit. Come in and remove it with some chisels.
That sounds way more difficult.
You can remove this section, like right here to right here with a router bit, and then you can just remove this section by hand. I guess I should talk about that when I talk about other ways to do this. Like if you are a bitch and you don't want to create yourself a jig, this is another way you can do it. Remove all this shit straight across with the router, and then come back and remove this out by hand with a hand saw and a perfectly angled 12-degree cut there, and then remove the rest with a chisel. And let us see pictures of all of your no sawdust and glue, just the real deal. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna identify a left and a right in these rear legs. The bottom is the thicker part. That's the part that goes on the floor, and the thinner part is the part that connects to the backrest. So we needed to decide, let me erase this because that was just these are not accurate lines at all. I was just screwing around. These look so similar. This is usually not the case. All of these sides look exactly the same, which is rare. Usually you have clear sap on the inside, dark wood on the outside. You have to kind of pick what you want. You have to imagine this is gonna be your left and your right, and you're like, okay, this is my left, this is my right. These all look so similar that I'm going to call this my left, and I'm going to call this my right. That's if I am sitting in it. If I am sitting in the chair, that's how I identify my chair parts. I'm sitting in the chair, this one's on my left, so that's my left, and this is also facing out. So I'm going to just write left on it, right on that one. So now that I know that that's my left and my right, I need to flip it over to the inside of the leg. Same thing with this one. You know, reference off something flat. We're going to use my table saw fence for this. And we are going to measure up and mark our first line, which needs to be 17 and an eighth. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to lay out where our dados are going to go in the rear legs. I've decided which one is going to be my left and which one is going to be my right, and I flipped them, and I have the inside of each chair facing up, and then I am putting the bottom of the leg, the feet, up against a flat surface, and I'm going to measure off of that flat surface, and I'm going to make my first mark at 17 and an eighth. This is a really, really important measurement to get right, so take your time with this and make sure you definitely are getting that in the right location. So I'm flat here, and I'm measuring up 17 and an eighth, and the fence puts me right here. And you see that little tick? 17 and an eighth. Okay. Then in the front, I need to make another one at 17 and 3/8. We're going to slide this forward. Right there is where that needs to stay. 17 and 3/8 is right here. So that's what we got. Now we got to do the same thing on the other leg. So the back of the leg, the rear of the leg is 17 and an eighth. Pull out your handy dandy marking knife. Just gonna make these a little darker so I can see them. All right, so those are the top of our dados that we have to make. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna go to this. I'm actually gonna bring the sled over to this table. All right, so now what I need to do now, we have our x-axis. Okay, we'll lube this up later and make it slide a little easier. Same with this. And then we have our y-axis. Slides this way, okay? What you need to do now is you need to, it's all a stop, and we just put this, and this whole thing is just being made out of scraps. I'm not buying like nice new wood and making everything perfect dimensions because it doesn't need to be like that. We just want to use the wood that we have. So that's what we have there. We have our stop. So when I slide this, that's where I need to be. And now with this y-axis slid all the way over to my stop, I am now going to raise the saw blade and see where it comes up in this secondary sliding sled, the y-axis sled. So we'll turn this table saw on. I'll turn on my vacuum, and we're gonna crank it. So I'll stop. This could have been you. 1, 2, 3. So I went a little bit to the left of the fences, and this is going to be, if you ever want to use this tool, this sled with a 90-degree cut, you can, but we don't want a 90-degree cut. So now I'm going to scoot this over, and I'm going to have a secondary cut that's going to come up at exactly 12 degrees. That way we have a perfect zero clearance center point of where that 12-degree cut is going to come up. It'll make sense when I do it and you see it with your own eyeballs. Again, I'm using pieces of woods that are just lying around. You're seeing discrepancies like that. I'm not going to mill new wood just because of that. So here's what we're doing. Now I have, this is a zero clearance with the blade set at 90 degrees. And all I did was I scooted this Y-axis over to a new stop. And with this new stop, that puts the blade about here. And now I have the blade preset to 12 degrees. And I'm gonna raise the blade now, and it's gonna come out and give me a 12-degree cut coming out of here. And that way I don't have an extra wide gap or hole or whatever in the same one that is no longer zero clearance. We want zero clearance. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna turn this on. No, you shouldn't do that. YouTube's what I just did, you probably shouldn't do it, because if this is a little loose, it's not as tight as mine fits. See, the reason why it didn't do it to me is because this is in here tight. I have to actually pull it pretty hard to get it to move. But if that was in there kind of loose and I tried to pull this towards me, it wants to kick it at me. So you probably shouldn't do that. It's dangerous. So now you can see this new line that we have here is not a 90-degree cut. It is a 12-degree cut. 12 degrees off of 90 rather. Hopefully that makes sense when I'm saying that to everyone else. So now what we're gonna do, I actually shouldn't have made my stop this high. I'm gonna change that because my leg needs to be able to overhang off of this, and this is not gonna allow that to happen. So I need to actually curve that down so that my leg can come out the side there. So I'm gonna take this to the bandsaw, and I'm gonna remove some of this material right here, like you see here, because I want my leg to be able to hang off in both directions. So we're gonna do that real quick. All right, so now this is what we have to do. This is our 12-degree. This is my right leg. This is my left leg. So remember those ticks we made earlier? Take off your glasses or put on your glasses, whatever it is that makes you see better, and get ready to line these guys up. We have that tick there, and we have that tick there. We need to make sure that we can see those really well. I'm going to transfer it to the side a little bit. Okay. I'm going to transfer this one to the side a little bit. We are going to... So basically what that means is we're eating ramen noodles for a while.